There's a particular kind of emptiness that's harder to explain than sadness. You go through your day, checking off tasks, having conversations, even smiling when it's expected. But inside, there's nothing. Not pain, not joy, just a strange flatness that makes everything feel like you're watching life through foggy glass. It's like your emotions got unplugged somewhere along the way, and you can't remember when it happened or how to plug them back in. And when people share good news or bad news, you find yourself mimicking the right reactions because you know what you're supposed to feel, but the actual feeling never comes. See, the strangest part isn't that you feel bad. It's that you don't feel much of anything at all. Not excitement for things you used to love. Not sadness for things that should hurt. Not even anger when something unfair happens. Just this quiet, gray nothing that sits where your emotions used to be. And you can't point to a single moment that broke you because it wasn't one massive trauma that flipped the switch. It's 100 small moments of swallowing your feelings, pushing through, and pretending you're fine until one day you realize you've forgotten how to feel anything real. See, people who feel emotionally numb don't necessarily want to feel pain. They just want to feel something, anything that proves they're still alive inside. They want that flutter in their chest when something beautiful happens. They want tears that actually come when they're sad. They want laughter that isn't forced. But instead, there's just the noise of absence. The noise of good news landing flat, of bad news feeling distant like it's happening to someone else, of joy feeling like a foreign language they used to speak but can't quite remember anymore. Psychologists call this state emotional numbness, or sometimes affective blunting. It's when the mind's emotional response system goes into standby mode, not because you chose it, but because it became the only way to survive. It's a protective shutdown, like your nervous system decided that feeling nothing is safer than feeling everything. It happens when your nervous system goes into emotional lockdown after being overwhelmed for too long. When you've processed more stress, grief, or intensity than your system was designed to handle, something inside quietly decides to stop registering feelings altogether. It's not a conscious choice. It's your brain's last-ditch effort to protect you from complete collapse. On the outside, you might look perfectly functional, going to work, maintaining relationships, doing what needs to be done. But inside, there's this strange disconnect, like you're operating on autopilot while the part of you that actually feels has gone offline. What's fascinating is that this isn't just psychological, it's neurological. When the brain experiences prolonged emotional stress or trauma, it starts regulating the amygdala differently. That's the part of your brain responsible for processing emotions. Think of it like a volume dial that's been turned down so low you can barely hear the music anymore. The neural pathways that once lit up with feeling, joy, excitement, even appropriate sadness, they start dampening their responses. Your reward system slows. Dopamine doesn't spike the way it should. And emotions, those signals that make life feel textured and real, they fade into a flat monotone. It's like a circuit breaker that tripped to prevent an overload, but now it won't reset. So when someone says, "I just don't feel anything anymore," it's not coldness. It's not indifference. It's a nervous system that learned that shutting down was the only way to survive what it was going through. This is where psychology meets survival. Because behind every person who feels numb is a story of feeling too much for too long. People who experience this emotional flatness are often the ones who felt everything so deeply that their system couldn't sustain it. They're the overthinkers who absorbed everyone else's emotions. The highly sensitive ones who picked up on tension in rooms before anyone spoke. The caregivers who held space for others but never had space held for them. They learned early that their feelings were inconvenient, so they buried them. And after years of burying, the ground became so packed that nothing could grow there anymore. Think about it. We live in a world that teaches you to suppress emotions, not process them. You're praised for holding it together during crisis, but rarely for falling apart when you need to. You're celebrated for being strong, for pushing through, for not letting things get to you. But nobody celebrates the person who says, "I need to stop and feel this." Nobody rewards vulnerability or the messy, slow work of actually processing what you've been through. So what happens? People learn that emotions are inconvenient obstacles to productivity. They learn to smile through pain, to minimize their struggles, to say, "I'm fine," so often that they start believing their own lie. And every time you swallow a feeling instead of expressing it, every time you pretend you're okay when you're crumbling, every time you prioritize everyone else's comfort over your own emotional truth, you're building a wall, brick by brick, feeling by feeling, until one day you're so far behind that wall that you can't remember what it felt like to be on the other side. And the cruelest part? When you finally feel nothing, when that protective numbness sets in, you think something is fundamentally wrong with you. You look around and see other people laughing, crying, getting excited, and you wonder why you can't access that anymore. But you're not broken. You're just exhausted. Your emotional system ran a marathon without rest, and now it's too tired to feel. One of the most painful truths is this: feeling numb doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've cared so much for so long that your system finally said enough. You've carried unexpressed grief that never got witnessed. You've processed trauma that nobody validated. You've held chronic stress in your body because there was never a safe moment to let it go. And after years of your emotions being too much for the world around you, or too inconvenient for the life you were trying to maintain, they stopped showing up altogether. It's not that they disappeared. They just went into hiding. There's a psychological term for this: Anhedonia. It's the clinical word for the inability to feel pleasure, but it goes deeper than that. It's not just that good things don't make you happy. It's that nothing registers emotionally anymore. Imagine your taste buds suddenly stopped working. Food isn't bad. It's not good. It's just nothing. You eat because you have to, but there's no enjoyment, no satisfaction, no sensory experience. That's what anhedonia does to your emotional life. Everything becomes neutral, flat, gray. You might go through the motions perfectly, showing up to celebrations, nodding along in conversations, even forcing a smile at the right moments. But inside, you're disconnected. Hobbies that used to light you up feel like chores. Music that once moved you sounds like background noise. People you care about feel distant, like you're watching them through a screen instead of actually being present with them. But here's what most people misunderstand about this state. It's not apathy. Apathy is not caring. Numbness is caring so much that your emotional battery's drained to absolute zero. It's your mind's way of saying, "We can't process one more thing right now." It's like your internal system hit its limit and shut down non-essential functions to keep you alive. And emotions, as vital as they are, got categorized as non-essential when survival became the only priority. This kind of numbness is profoundly isolating. Because how do you explain to someone that you feel nothing when they expect you to feel something? How do you tell your friend you can't get excited about their good news when you know you should be happy for them? How do you admit to your family that you're not sad at a funeral? Not because you didn't love the person, but because your tears won't come anymore. The truth is, this emotional flatness is cumulative. It builds from every moment you betrayed your own feelings to keep the peace. Every time you pretended to be excited when someone shared their joy, even though you felt empty inside. Every time you faked laughter at a joke that didn't land for you. Every time you nodded along in conversation while feeling completely disconnected from what was being said. Each of those moments added another layer of separation between who you are and what you feel. And after enough time, you can't find your way back. That's when you start noticing the small signs. Music that used to give you chills now just plays in the background. Movies that should make you cry leave you staring blankly at the screen. Conversations feel like reading from a script. You know your lines, but there's no authenticity behind them. Time starts feeling strange too, not slow or fast, just flat. Days blur together because nothing stands out emotionally. Nothing marks one day as different from another. And slowly, quietly, you start asking yourself the most dangerous questions. Am I broken? Did I lose the part of me that makes me human? Is this all there is? But underneath those questions is another one, quieter but more desperate. Will I ever feel real again? But that question isn't the end. It's the beginning of understanding. Because when your soul asks, will I ever feel real again? It's not giving up. It's reaching for something. It's the first sign that underneath all that numbness, there's still a part of you that wants to reconnect, that remembers what feeling alive was like and refuses to accept that it's gone forever. This numbness, as empty and frightening as it feels, is actually your mind's way of forcing a pause. It's a signal, not a life sentence. Your emotional system didn't break, protected itself, and now it's waiting quietly for the conditions that made shutting down necessary to change before it risks opening back up again. See, numbness is a messenger, and the message is this: something in your life is no longer sustainable. Maybe it's a relationship where you can't be yourself. Maybe it's a job that demands you perform emotions you don't feel. Maybe it's a version of yourself that you've outgrown but don't know how to let go of. Whatever it is, your numbness is pointing at it, saying, this is what I'm protecting you from. What's profound is that when people start listening to their numbness instead of fighting it, something shifts. There's research in psychology that shows people who address the root causes of their emotional shutdown, not just the symptoms, begin to experience what therapists call emotional thawing. It's not instant. It's not a switch that flips back on, but gradually, carefully, feelings start returning. And often, meaning is what brings them back. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived unimaginable trauma, discovered that humans can endure almost anything if they have a reason that feels true. When people who feel numb begin reconnecting with what genuinely matters to them, not what they think should matter, not what others expect to matter, but what actually resonates with their core self, the numbness starts to lift. Not because they forced it, but because they created conditions where it was safe to feel again. The shift happens when you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what am I protecting myself from? That question changes everything. Because suddenly you're not broken. You're defended. And defenses, unlike permanent damage, can be softened when the threat is gone. So maybe the goal isn't to force feelings back. Maybe it's to create enough safety that they can return on their own. Because your numbness isn't a wall that needs to be torn down. It's a shell that can gradually soften when it no longer needs to protect you. Think about what you might be protecting yourself from. Maybe it's disappointment after hoping for things that never came. Maybe it's vulnerability after being hurt when you opened up. Maybe it's grief that feels too big to hold. Maybe it's anger that scares you because you've always been the calm one. Maybe it's joy because the last time you let yourself feel excited, something went wrong and you learned that happiness is dangerous. Whatever it is, your numbness isn't random. It's specific. It's guarding something. And the way back to feeling isn't through forcing yourself to be happy or guilting yourself for being disconnected. It's through acknowledging what the numbness is protecting and slowly, gently creating conditions where that protection isn't needed anymore. If you're feeling this emptiness right now, if emotions feel like a language you used to speak but can't access anymore, I want you to know something. You're not broken. You're not defective. You're not cold or unfeeling or less than human. You're someone whose emotional system got overwhelmed and did the only thing it knew how to do to keep you functioning. And that took strength, even if it doesn't feel like it. You don't need to fix everything at once. You don't need to suddenly feel all the feelings you've been missing. Is this, I need to feel safe before I can feel anything else. So start there. Start with safety, with tiny moments where you don't have to perform, with spaces where you can exist without expectation, with sensations instead of emotions, the texture of fabric against your skin, the temperature of water on your hands, the taste of something simple. Because sometimes numbness isn't permanent disconnection. It's temporary protection. And protection, when it's no longer needed, naturally falls away. The moment you stop judging your numbness and start listening to it, something fundamental shifts. You move from shame to curiosity, from "what's wrong with me?" to "what is this trying to tell me?" And in that shift, in that simple change of perspective, the first crack appears in the shell. Healing from emotional numbness doesn't look like a dramatic breakthrough. It's not a moment where suddenly everything rushes back and you're overcome with feeling. That's the Hollywood version. The real version is quieter, slower, more gradual. It's like frozen ground slowly warming as winter turns to spring. You don't see it happening, but one day you notice a small green shoot pushing through. For some people, it's the first time in months that a song actually hits different. Not just playing in the background, but landing somewhere inside them. For others, it's the first genuine laugh that surprises them. Not the polite chuckle they've been performing, but real laughter that comes from somewhere deeper. Sometimes it's tears, finally, after months or years of dry eyes. And those tears might come at strange times, not during the big moments you expected, but while watching something simple or hearing a kind word or sitting alone in your car. The reconnection happens in layers. First through the body, because the body holds what the mind tried to forget. Movement can bring feeling back. Not forced exercise, but gentle movement. Dancing alone. Walking without a destination. Stretching. Crying, when it finally comes, is the body releasing what words couldn't hold. Breathing, real breathing, not the shallow survival breathing you've been doing, but deep breaths that remind your nervous system it's safe to exist fully. Then through connection, but only with people who don't demand performance. People who can sit with your flatness without trying to fix it. Therapists who understand that numbness isn't resistance, it's protection. Friends who don't take your distance personally. Spaces where you can say, "I don't feel anything right now," and not be met with advice or judgment, just presence. And finally, through expression. Sometimes feelings return when you stop waiting for them and start expressing the numbness itself. Writing about the emptiness, drawing the grayness, speaking the truth of disconnection out loud. Because sometimes you have to honor where you are before you can move to where you want to be. Your nervous system is like frozen ground slowly warming. You can't force it. You can't microwave emotional healing. But you can create conditions. Safety, patience, permission to feel nothing without shame. And slowly, so slowly you might not notice at first, sensation returns. Then emotion, then color. Not all at once, but in small, precious moments that remind you that you're still capable of feeling. You didn't lose it. It was just sleeping. Here's what most people never tell you about emotional numbness. There's a gift hidden inside it, though you can't see it while you're in it. When you've felt nothing for so long, and then feeling slowly returns, you develop a clarity that people who've never experienced numbness don't have. You know the difference between real emotion and performed emotion. You know what actually matters because you've lived in a state where nothing mattered, and coming back from that, you don't take feeling for granted anymore. People who've been emotionally numb and found their way back become some of the most emotionally intelligent people you'll ever meet. They understand disconnection in others without needing it explained. They can sit with someone's emptiness without trying to fill it with false positivity. They know that sometimes the most helpful thing you can say is, "I see you. I know that flatness. You're not alone in it." They learn to trust their feelings differently too. When emotion does return, they don't dismiss it or suppress it the way they used to. They know what it costs to lose access to feeling, so when it's there, they honor it. Sadness gets acknowledged. Joy gets savored. Anger gets expressed in healthy ways instead of swallowed. Because they remember the gray, and anything with color, even difficult emotions, feels like returning to life. And maybe that's the hidden purpose of numbness. It's not a punishment. It's not evidence that you're broken. It's a reset. It strips away all the performed emotions, all the feelings you thought you should have, all the ways you learned to fake connection. And what's left, when the numbness eventually softens, is authenticity. Real feeling. True emotion that comes from your actual experience, not from what's expected of you. It shows you what's worth feeling for. Because when you felt nothing, you learn very quickly what brings you back to life. It's not the big impressive things. It's the small true things. A conversation that feels real. A moment of being seen. A creative act that comes from somewhere genuine. These become precious in a way they never were before. So if you've felt this emptiness, if you've lived in that gray space where nothing reaches you, you're not less human than others. You're learning what it means to be human after your humanity had to go into hiding to survive. And that learning, that journey back to feeling, makes you someone who understands depth in a way that surface-level living never teaches. So if you're in that numb space right now, where emotions feel like they belong to someone else, where you're going through the motions but nothing's landing, where you look at your life and can't understand why you feel so disconnected from it, I need you to hear this. You are not broken. You are not cold. You are not unfeeling or incapable of emotion. You are protecting something precious inside you, and that protection made sense given what you've been through. Your numbness isn't a life sentence. It's a pause. A necessary pause that your system insisted on because continuing the way things were would have destroyed something essential in you. And even though it feels like loss, like you've been hollowed out, there is still something alive in there. You know how I know? Because you're here, listening to this, wondering if you'll ever feel real again. That wondering is itself a form of feeling. It's the first signal that underneath the numbness, you still want connection. You still want to come back. Remember this, feelings don't disappear permanently. They go underground. They wait. And when the conditions change, when safety returns, when you stop demanding that they show up before they're ready, they begin to surface again. Not all at once. Not in the dramatic way you might hope for, but in small, quiet moments that gradually teach you that you're still capable of being moved. Your numbness isn't a wall. It's a cocoon. And what happens in a cocoon might look like nothing from the outside. It might feel like stagnation or death. But inside, something is transforming. Something is preparing to emerge different than it was before. Stronger in the places that broke. Softer in the places that hardened. More authentic because it had to shed what wasn't real. And maybe feeling emotionally numb most of the time doesn't mean you've lost your capacity to feel forever. Maybe it means your emotions are resting, recovering, waiting for you to create a life where it's safe to feel again. A life where vulnerability isn't punished, where sensitivity isn't a weakness, where your feelings, whatever they are, have permission to exist without judgment. And that pause, that protective silence where nothing seems to be happening, might just be the beginning of the most honest, most genuine feeling you've ever known. Because when emotions return after numbness, they're not performed anymore. They're not curated for others. They're yours. Real, raw, true. And that truth, that authentic feeling, is worth the wait. It's worth the journey through the gray. It's worth believing, even in the numbness, that color will return. Because it will, slowly, gently, in its own time. And when it does, you'll understand that you weren't broken. You were transforming.